Good afternoon, brothers. How are you all? Hope you can hear me fine. Just give me a shout out in the chat if you can hear me okay. I'd appreciate that. We are switching between microphones today. Okay, and yeah, hope you're all well. And thanks for tuning in this Sunday. I had to think about what day it was for a minute, but it's definitely Sunday. So, awesome. We're here and we got 5 lists to do today, and the lists we've got are from 2 from members and then 3 from I guess like just subscribers or whatnot. So our member lists today are Jonathan Torres, Tony Stark, and the other lists that we have are Joe Dawson, Rambo, and Rezio. So and I guess to say, like, I guess if you're new here and you want to see more Blood Angels content every week, then please consider subscribing. And thank you for shouting out the mic is all good. Right, so who we got in the chat today? My glasses are filthy, by the way. I've just been babysitting my daughter for the last couple of hours, so she really likes to poke at my glasses. Northern Hero, Adam, Dylan, Jonathan, nice to see you, especially because you've got your list ready for review today. Mark, good afternoon. Marcus, J Sharp, hello from the UK. Nice. Mic is good, loud and clear. Awesome, awesome. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but this was actually done by one of the guys in our community. Just got shared earlier on YouTube today. I think it's kind of a badass. This is a conversion of a company champion, and I kind of like how he's done this sword. I'd never seen that technique done before, but wow, it's pretty cool. It said it's like a molten core sword. I put up a post for it. If you want to see how Evan did this. But no, this is a very cool company champion, and I think this fits with my scheme of making a bunch of my elites gold, right? Because why not? And yeah, I guess if anyone is new here, we always take questions from chat, and we just generally talk about how we try and maybe improve the army lists that get submitted. And also, if you've got any feedback, or if you ever have any videos that you would like to see done in the future, then you can obviously leave me a message on that. We do new Blood Angels videos every week. Last week's video that did really well, the Death Company against Vanguard Veterans, that was actually a suggestion from the live stream from previous weekend. So if there's something that's grinding your gears, or if there's something that you really want to know, is this a good call for future, then you can just drop me a message in chat. If we have already submitted to a list, do you know how long the backlog is until they get reviews? No. I do have... Would your list have been submitted under the name J Sharp? There it is. So you are... is this next week? So you're like 1, 2, 3 weeks from now. So yeah, I mean, like, we even have list submissions from 6 weeks ahead, because I have to leave some space for members, because basically if you're a member of the channel, you can get list priority submission, and I guess if there is space on the day, I'll just pull some of the other people forward. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of list submissions these days, which is great. And thoughts on Celestine's boy toy? I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Was there a new Sisters of Battle release? If there was, and if it came out today or something, then I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, so I guess you're a few weeks away, J Sharp. But yeah, I mean, if you want, I guess, and anyone else that's in here, if you want to get your list reviewed quicker, then there is a way to join and support the channel, and then you will get priority on lists. But yeah, sorry about that. It's just do as many lists as I can, but obviously there's a lot to get through. So okay, all right. So we don't want to stay on too long today. So let's start with yours, Jonathan, and then maybe we'll do some chatter afterwards. I had yours up as the first list anyway. I wanted to say that my suppressors aren't taken because I play another with Eradicator and Aggressors are heavy. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. But the first list today is obviously Jonathan Torres, and yeah, I mean, let's just get straight into it. So we start with the 2 extra relics, which I talk a little bit about generally liking extra relics to be bought at the start of the battle. I tend to like extra heroes of the chapter to be bought as well, but 2 extra relics is fine. So we have a chapter master who is the Artisan of War. So I guess he's got the Angel's Artifice, the Infernal Pistol, the Jump Pack, the Master Crafted Weapon, the Rites of War, the Angel's Exemplar, the Thunder Hammer, and the Warlord. So I assume the Thunder Hammer would be the Master Crafted Weapon, and the Angel's Artifice obviously giving him +1 strength. Sorry, +1 toughness, +1 wound, and that 2+ armor save. So although he doesn't carry a storm shield, he still has a 2+ save and a 4+ invulnerable save. So he's a decently survivable jump captain. I mean, I really like boosting up the toughness of these captains beyond 4, right? There's so many like multi-meltas and heavy strength weapons in the games now, even like las cannons or plasma cannons. So boosting up his toughness with the Angel's Artifice, I generally really like that, especially on a 170 point character. You don't want him to be getting wounded on 2s, right? So and I guess you can't transhuman him because he's not Primaris, so Angel's Artifice makes a lot of sense here. Then the Librarian. So this is your Librarian with a Chief Librarian, and he has the Force Sword. He is a Psychic Master, so he gets +1 to all the Psychic tests. And I was expecting him to... yeah, so he's got a Jump Pack as well. So 140 points. Veil of Time, Null Zone, Psychic Fortress. So that's commonly what we would see. I'm kind of surprised to not see the Tomb of Malcador on him. I guess maybe the relics you don't have enough room to get the Tomb of Malcador on him, but I think it's generally a very strong pickup. It gives you the ability to like unleash rage, which I guess we'll see what else do you have in the list, but it's possibly okay. And then the Saguaro Priest, who everybody runs, who is the Chief Apothecary. He is the icon of the Angel. He also has the Jump Pack and the Selfless Healer. So that makes sense as well. I'm trying to see where your 2 extra relics are, right? You have... you have Artisan of War, which is... Artisan of War is a Warlord trait now. I have to get that correct. So that's a Warlord trait. You've got the Master Crafted Weapon here, and the Icon of the Angel. Okay. But that's only 1 extra relic, right? So what's your... where's your other relic? Okay, we'll come back to that as we move through the list. So we have 2 squads of Incursors and a squad of Infiltrators. I mean, 3 squads of Phobos troops, it's really hard to argue with. We talk a lot about the Phobos troops. What benefit does Master Crafted give? It gives +1 to a weapon of your choice, but it can't give +1 to a weapon that's already Master Crafted. So, like a Blade Guard veteran has a Master Crafted sword, you couldn't give him a Master Crafted weapon on top of it and make it 3 damage. And yeah, I don't think Blood Angels are nearly as CP hungry as we used to be, so I'm totally fine with spending, I guess, 2 extra relics and 2 extra heroes of the chapter before the game starts. I mean, starting on 8 CP seems fine. I mean, with 1 a turn, it turns into 13, right? We then have, what's this look like? 2, 4, 6, 8, a 9-man Death Company with 4 Thunder Hammers. That's maybe 1 more hammer than I would normally run, but I mean, it's so minor, I'm sure it's probably fine. So 9-man Death Company with Thunder Hammers and the Jump Packs. Then we have the Saguaro Ancient, who is... alright, so you're using the Wrath of Baal as your other relic. Okay, so the Wrath of Baal to give you the 2 inches extra movement for Jump Pack units that are within... I don't actually know, is it within 6 inches of the Saguaro Ancient, or is it within 3? It's been a little while since I ran a Saguaro Ancient. I don't think I've run a Saguaro Ancient since they removed... the Standard of Sacrifice. So it's... oh, it doesn't say there. It's on the relic page, of course. The Wrath of Baal... okay, so it's 6 inches. So you get to add 2 inches to your move if you're within 6 of the Saguaro Ancient. Then it's 1 big Saguaro Guard squad here, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, 10 makes sense. 30 points per model. Swords and bolt guns. I think... some people prefer swords, some people prefer axes. There's not a huge difference in it. So I think 10 with swords is fine. And then we have a pretty big Vanguard Veteran squad here, and this is based on kind of the video that we did last week where we talk about Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws being actually very, very strong. So we've got 5 that have Storm Shields and Lightning Claws, then we have another 5 that just have the double Lightning Claws. So that is a shed load of attacks. I would have to do some maths here. The Vanguard Veterans normally get 3 attacks, so you'd have... the Sergeant gets 3 attacks. So the Sergeant would have 5 attacks. A bunch of the other guys would all have 4 attacks and then 3 attacks, and then potentially another 20 attacks of Savage Echoes. And how many is this? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, so it's 10. So it's 5 with 3 attacks, 15 attacks plus 10 is 25. And then it's... I'm gonna have to. I just want to know how many Lightning Claws attacks this is, because this is kind of crazy. So it's 2 normally, plus 2 times 5 plus 10, so they give you 30 plus 1 for the Sergeant, and then the other guys are giving 5 per, so plus 25. Wow, 56 Lightning Claw attacks from that squad. That's actually nuts with the rerolls to wound. Because we worked out that, to give you an example, is toughness 8 models. Typically, like, you don't want to be fighting into toughness 8 models, right, as Blood Angels, because you think, like, well, they're pretty weak. So if we ran 56 Lightning Claws into toughness 8, I don't know, like our Repulsor or Land Raider or anything toughness 8 in the game. I guess Leviathan Dreadnoughts used to be toughness 8, but they're not. But if we run into something that's toughness 8 with 56 attacks, you'd be talking, we hit on 3s, right? So that's 0.66. So we hit 37 times. Let's just average at 37. And then we only wound on 5s because they're toughness 8, and we are strength 4 because of the plus 1 from Red Thirst. So we wound on 5. So normally we would just take 12 wounds. But we get to reroll wounds, and I guess because we did 37, there was going to be 25 misses. So we get to times that again by 33. So we actually end up doing 20. That's wrong. It would be 13 plus 8.25. So we actually end up doing like 21 wounds into like a toughness 8 unit with this Vanguard Veteran squad. And bear in mind, once turn 3 hits, they're minus 3 AP. So I mean, like if you were hitting into Land Raider, for example, with its 3 plus strength, it would only save on 6s. So yeah, I mean, you would basically be able to do 17 damage to a Land Raider, so you'd be able to kill the Land Raider with a single charge with Lightning Claws. That's kind of nuts. So, and I mean, that's doing up against Toughness 8. If you actually took that squad against Infantry or something, that's going to be crazy how much damage it's going to do. Just out of curiosity, 56 attacks into like another squad of Marines, for example. So you did get those 37, and then you're wounding on 3s, re-rolling misses. So you get 24 wounds re-rolling those misses, plus 8. So against like a squad of Marines, they're going to have to take like 33 saves at minus 3. Yeah, I generally like the Lightning Claws a lot, and I mean, like, if you look at the points, they're coming in 25 points cheaper than the Vanguard, than the Saguaro Guard. They also have a lot of Storm Shields in here that can be used to soak up a bunch of damage. So yeah, Lightning Claw, and I guess really good against, like, maybe we need to look at Lightning Claws against Death Guard, right? Because Death Guard have that new -1 damage thing, and I think Lightning Claws are going to be pretty important. Or they're going to be, maybe not important, but pretty useful against those. And then down here we have one Suppressor Squad, which I kind of think there's a decent bit of value in suppressors in that we just get to turn off Overwatch anywhere that we want to. It's, they're kind of a low cost unit. They're not going to do a lot of damage. I didn't know that you can't mastercraft the relic swords. You can mastercraft a relic blade. You can't mastercraft a relic, quote unquote, but a relic blade isn't actually a relic. That's very confusing. but the relic blade is just a weapon, whereas a relic is like the hammer of Baal or something. So you can mastercraft a relic blade if you wanted to, Jonathan. So yeah, maybe that gives you an option to do a little bit more damage. If you don't want to have to deal with the -1 to hit from the power sword, from the Thunderhammer. And then we have the Whirlwind in there as well, and the Whirlwind has a random hunter-killer missile on it, I guess, because why not? I mean, usually I would try and put the Whirlwind into an obscuring position, but again, the Whirlwind stratagem, I'm not sure if you guys are 100% familiar with the Whirlwind stratagem. I know some of you watch my channel a lot. You probably are familiar with the Whirlwind stratagem, but I just want to point out something about that Whirlwind stratagem that is like super strong, that probably not everybody knows, and it's definitely worth knowing. And it's down here on the bottom of the Space Marine page. Here we go. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when a Whirlwind model from your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, each time that model makes an attack with a weapon that has the blast ability, if a hit is scored for that attack. So basically, you roll your 2d6 shots. So if you score a single hit, the wording is, then until the start of your next turn, the target cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend and cannot be selected to fight until all eligible units from your army have done so. So, if you shot Suppressive Fire into something like Mortarion, and then he charged you in his turn, he would still not get to fight until all of your units have fought. Now, Mortarion is maybe a bad example because maybe your units aren't strong enough to kill Mortarion in one turn, but if you know the enemy are going to charge some of your most vital units in their turn and there's nothing you can do about it, you can shoot the Whirlwind with the Suppressive Fire, and then when they decide to charge your Sanguinary Guard will fight first. And that is super clutch. It's literally the only reason that I have a Whirlwind in my list, and I think Highland Phoenix in the chat right now is literally gluing a Whirlwind together, probably for the exact same reason. So just be aware that Whirlwinds have this sort of crazy strat at the moment, and they're definitely something you want to consider. A Mastercrafted Relic Blade can go either on a Captain or make a Slash Master, and there's a strat to add Mastercrafter to Sergeant weapon, and a Vanguard Sergeant can take a Relic Blade. Yeah, I mean, I think the one disadvantage with the Captain on a bike right now is the Captain on the bike can't take the Relic Blade, but the Captain with the Jump Pack can. So, the Captain with the Jump Pack is 10 more points expensive than the bike, which I find difficult to understand, but yeah, I mean, that's generally just the way it goes. Sometimes things are a bit more expensive and a bit less in other places. So I think looking at this list, right, we've got the 3 massive 10-man squads. Death Company, I think actually Death Company was 9, but 9 Death Company, 10 Sanguinary Guard, 10 Vanguard Veterans, and then the Sanguinary Ancients. So it's very much always be charging list. We're going to try and get in early. We're going to try and hammer through the enemy with these massive squads. We've got our Phobos troops to worry about scoring us like primary and secondary points potentially. We have a decent array of, the Chapter Master, who is the Warlord. So again, he can buff the Sanguinary Guard. He can give rerolls anywhere he wants to go. And the Librarian and the Saguaro Priest are both great utility characters. I don't know if I recommend running both these utility characters, but some people obviously do. I kind of like to have some of my characters, like I like the punch of this character, and I like to have our characters do a bit of punch. But how about Mastercrafted Lightning Claw and the Vanguard Veteran Sergeant? I mean, that's an option as well. I mean, it's certainly an option as well. So I like to have maybe a little bit more punch from my characters, but I understand this list, and the Icon of the Angel for the rerolls of the charges, along with extra distance you get from the Wrath of Baal. I mean, that's all going to try and synergize together. And then the Suppressors to stop any Overwatch, and the Whirlwind to also basically make something fight last. I mean, combined with the fact that you can do Veil of Time, so you always fight first. This is a very tournament-y-esque list Jonathan, and I think overall it's a very solid, thought out of like. I feel like as Blood Angels, if you want to be super competitive at the moment, you need a way to fight first, and you need a way to basically make the enemy fight last, and you have both of those. You also have the null zone and the jump pack, which means you can really turn off and disable key and vulnerable saves from your enemy. It's not going to hurt you too much because only a few of your elites, these Vanguard veterans, have storm shields with an invulnerable save. So and the chapter master, I mean, that's pretty much the chapter master I recommend. I just prefer putting him on a bike rather than having him with a jump pack. I tend to start my chapter master on the table, so I guess there's that as well. I guess the reason that I like to start mine on the table is sometimes I will like give his rerolls to some eradicators or something like that, or a dreadnought maybe, before I take off across the table with my 20-inch move on my bikes. We need a stream that's only on how to kill Morty as a Blood Angel. I mean, I don't think Mortarian's that bad to kill. I mean, like, if you're able to null zone him, like, I really don't think he's that strong. And I guess the question is, if you did manage to null zone him and the enemy loses a 500 point model early in the game, that could really hurt them, and it could push you across the finish line, so to speak. You might want to split the Death Company or the Vanguard veterans on occasion, but if for longing, keep the Death Company large, I would assume. Do you know what? I haven't run a 10-man Vanguard veteran squad, but like, I'm pretty sure they have combat squads, right? Like, I just want to double check. Vanguard veteran, yeah, they have combat squads, so you could combat squad the Vanguard veterans at the start of the game, if you felt like you needed to, like, keep these two large squads and then combat squad this squad if you needed to. Might be like a couple of storm shields in each one or something like that. That might be pretty cool. So yeah, let's have a score on this list then. And I'm not seeing anything that I dislike. I tend to include a little bit more shooting in my lists than what we see here. And I guess where I get the points to do that is, like, I don't really rate Wrath of Baal. Some people do, though, and I guess if you're using terrain to your advantage, there can be a good advantage to taking Wrath of Baal. But my experience with Wrath of Baal is it makes me go too ham, and what I mean by that is, like, I try and go too aggressive, and sometimes being too aggressive early in the game as a Blood Angel can actually come back and haunt you. Like, you can end up having your troops, like, strung out across the battlefield because you thought you could make those early game charges and you just didn't manage it. So, okay, objective holding, then I think we're going to go with 9. I actually think you took Rights of War, though, right? Which I think is okay. I mean, I think I would rather have Gift of Foresight on that character. Like, my strategy is more about killing, but I mean, I guess Rights of War gives you that ability to make some of those Vanguard veterans or Sanguinary Guard or Death Company steal primary objectives off the enemy. How are you going to deal with infantry and horde is going to be fine, but you may have some problems against screens, right? Like, if the enemy has, like, a bunch of screens and a bunch of shaft that you have to get through and you don't have the range to jump over them, then you may end up having some small problems. So I think we have to say, like, it's an 8.5 for that. But I mean, it's totally situational, I guess. The other thing to say is, against vehicles, we have this one squad of Death Company with Thunderhammers, and it's really hard, actually, because Lightning Claws, we just proved, can kill a Land Raider from full health in one turn. So maybe and I guess that's before we even consider that, like, Vanguard veterans can pop Melta-Bombs, which can do, like, D6 mortal wounds as well. So if one Lightning Claw guy with a Storm Shield popped Melta-Bombs, you could probably do a lot of work there. So, like, anti-vehicle, I think, is probably, like, up at 9. Mobility is pretty darn good. The only thing that's not going to be mobile is the Whirlwind, which really doesn't need to be, and I guess all your troops can use guerrilla tactics, so generally I think your mobility is about as strong as you can get. And Specialization is when we mark lists down if they're too specialized and they're too focused on a single thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can fault it too much. I think you're right. I just think that I think the one weakness here is going to be if the enemy has a lot of chaff and you don't have enough firepower to clear through that chaff. Good afternoon, Bob. How you doing? Good to see you. And I mean, I guess the whirlwind and suppressors can kill some of it, but I can't imagine they're going to kill much. You know, like a whirlwind usually kills a couple of models. The suppressors will kill a couple of models. So if the enemy had a lot of rubbish in front of their troops that you have to get through. I mean, I've played Imperial Guard armies where they just have a bunch of soldiers in front of all their tanks and you just can't get through to the tanks because the crappy soldiers. So, you know, like you could have a small problem there. And then, yeah, specialization. I mean, it is heavily into the melee specialization, which isn't bad. I mean, that is what Blood Angels are all about. But I feel like I looked at a couple of lists recently, Blood Angels lists, and the ones that won the tournaments, there was definitely one that won a tournament, right? And I think maybe there was two, and the ones that won the tournaments had a bit of shooting in them, a bit more shooting than this, I would say. So I guess we have to consider that there's a reason that those lists are having a bit more shooting, and what they were tending to do was Eradicators or multi-melta bikes, because they're both nice and cheap and they both can punch holes through pretty much any unit that you want them to. The added advantage of the bikes, the multi-melta bikes, is they're so fast, they don't take -1 for hit for moving and shooting, and they're super cheap to reserve as well. You know, like you can reserve, like, I want to say you can reserve 2 or 3 attack bikes for 1 CP. Yeah, attack bikes are literally 2 power, so you could literally reserve 4 of them for 1 CP, unless they change that. But I can't imagine even if they changed it up to 3, it's still the same. You could take 3 attack bikes for, you could reserve them for 1 CP. So having the multi-meltas be able to deploy anywhere on the map, pretty much, very early in the game and just punch holes through key positions or key objectives. I think it's hard to deny that. So I think probably what we'll say is like specialization is 8.5. So I think like in looking at the score there, Jonathan, it's a very solid list. I think that you would probably be able to win a lot of games with this list, but I think there is some armies that will be able to counter it, and I don't know if that's a problem with the list or more like a problem with Blood Angels, because like this list kind of encapsulates the Blood Angels perfectly, but at the highest levels in some of the tournament settings, you may actually have a little bit of a problem with it. What do you think about using assault squads of 5 guys with 2 melta guns and a sergeant having the combi melta hunt vehicles? I think there's probably better ways to hunt vehicles than assault squads with melta guns. I did do a video of a drop pod. It was called like drop pod plus relentless assault, and it included stern guards with a lot of melta guns and combi meltas and flamers, like a big squad of them, and they actually got out damaged by like Death Company when we did the point for point math. So I'm not so sure if that assault squad tactic would be all that strong. Good evening, Alex. Thanks for tuning in today. So I know the suppressors in the Whirlwind pretty much do the same thing, but the keyword for suppressors state that it just has to be an infantry unit in the Whirlwind. Just saw a unit. So in case the world were used on units, like Mortarian, the suppressors are used for eradicators and aggressors. Yeah, you're 100% right. The suppressors can only anti-deny Overwatch on infantry models, whereas the Whirlwind can deny it on everything, and the Whirlwind is better because it has the ability to make them fight last as well. But overall, I miss taking assault squads. Yeah, do you know what? Hong says that maybe plasma inceptors. I mean, you're right. You're right, Hong. 100%. Hong. I hope I'm saying that right. Hong MVP. Plasma Inceptors and multi-meltas, either from Eradicators in reserve or multi-melta bikes, seem to be what Blood Angels players are really using to guarantee the ability to punch out those screens. I think the Plasma Inceptors more so, dropping down all those Plasma Inceptors, clearing out a ton of screens. And you know what? The Plasma Inceptors aren't bad in close combat either. I mean, you know, on the charge with Savage Echoes, the Sergeant has 5 attacks, and the regular guys have 4 attacks. You know, so you can clear out the screens reasonably well with their guns, and if you just need to finish off a model or two, you can always charge in with those Plasma Inceptors as well. So, yeah, it's probably if I was going to try and improve this list, I would be thinking towards Plasma Inceptors or those multi-melta bikes, but something's got, you know, like you're right on your points limit, so something's got to give. It would have to probably be the Suppressors or the Saguaro Ancient, or lose a couple of guys out of all your squads. Inceptors are expensive though. They're like 55 points a model with plasmas, so or is it? I think it was 55. I think they were 50, and I think they put them up to 55. Let me check. Inceptors. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 55 points per model now, because it's 45 plus 5 for each of their plasmas. So, but I mean, people are winning games left, right, and centre, and people are winning tournaments with Plasma Inceptors and Meltas. So, I guess consider that. But overall, I think it's a good list, Jonathan. And I think you will win games with it. And I think if you're going to buy something next, I think you would be thinking those Plasma Inceptors or some multi-melta bikes. They seem to be the units that synergize with our army the best, both because they can be where they need to be, they're fast moving, and they deliver good, solid firepower. So, thanks very much for the submission, and I hope this was helpful. And next up, we're going to look at Tony. Where do we stand on Librarians with Tomb of Malkador mixing disciplines? Arguments starting today on competitive 40k group whether or not they can. So, I know that multiple people have won tournaments now using the Tomb of Malkador, and I believe if you take the Tomb of Malkador, you can take 1 power from another discipline, because it says you can pick a. My view of it as well is that you can take 1 power from another discipline, because the wording says. The bearer knows 1 additional psychic power from any discipline it has access to. So, when you pick that librarian, what exactly does... So it says any discipline you have access to. And the librarian... This model can attempt to make 2 psychic powers. It knows smite and 2 powers from the librarian discipline. That's what it says in the Marine Codex, and then I believe it's at the top of the page in the Blood Angels Codex. It says Blood Angels Psyker models in Blood Angels detachment can know all of their psychic powers from the Sanguinary discipline instead of the Librarian or Obscuration discipline. So they can know all their powers, but it never actually says. Do you know what that is? It says they can know all their powers. Strange. Any discipline they have access to is the other bit. So I mean, the any discipline they have access to, well, I mean, like a regular librarian, he has access to the Librarius or the Sanguinary powers, right? So, I don't know. I guess GW should probably need to FAQ it, but I know that people... I know 2 different Blood Angels players, and apparently the number 1 Blood Angels player in the world has it in his army list, because I went and checked when I got into debate about it with somebody, and I know that the recent tournament winning list that I looked at also had it. So multiple players, I guess, are using it. Multiple players at the highest levels are using it. So I think at the moment it's fine. And if Games Workshop have a problem with it, they need to FAQ it. Good evening, Mark. How you doing? Nice to see you. The key thing is can. They can take Sanguinary Discipline. It's a bit blurry. I can see both arguments. Yeah, maybe it is a bit blurry, but I'm doing it. I have never actually run it myself, but I was planning on doing it as soon as the lockdown ends here. We've been in lockdown for 6 or 7 weeks now, I think, since sort of middle of December. So as soon as the lockdown ends, I was planning on doing it. So I'll do it, and if GW change their mind, then they change their mind. But I mean, the top players are definitely doing it. So either GW need to FAQ it, or if they don't, then I would assume it's accepted, because they must know people are winning tournaments using it. All right. So next up is the list from Tony Stark, and lists at the moment seem to be refining down to being quite homogenous. 3 Phobos troops, lots of Sanguinary Guards, small cheap death companies, unkillable Vanguard vets, and as many dreads as you can stick at. For this list I wanted to do something different. Give a chance for some other units to take centre stage, but importantly not be a total joke and actually have some teeth to compete, although probably not at the highest tables. So keeping this in mind with the chapter traits doctrines, +1 to wound, +1 to charge, and a shed load of attacks means that every intercessor can be scary in melee. Yeah, I've always said that. Any Blood Angels unit, even scouts with knives, can be scary in melee. I've come up with this. Feel free to pull it apart, but try to bear in mind the idea that we want to take units that you don't see all that often, and with this I present the Cavalcade of the Unloved. So I actually love your idea behind this. I mean, like, you know, I definitely take units that other people aren't taking, and sometimes there's a bit of fun in that, right? Because you might end up creating the new meta yourself if other people, you know, if you're not just going to do exactly the same as everybody else. Oh, the name of the person's thank you, Adam. Yeah, normally I'm supposed to put whose list we're looking at in the top right, so if you catch up on the replay, you can see the lists. And after the stream, I always post all the lists into the comments on YouTube, so if anyone wants to anyone wants to look at any of the lists that we reviewed afterwards, and you know, copy the lists or take inspiration for them, then I'll post them all into the YouTube comments in as many words. Applaud you for knowing what the usual list is, Tony Stark, and deliberately going against it. Good afternoon, Theo. How are you doing? Alright, so Warlord, Chaplain in Terminator armor with a combi melter. This isn't something we see every day, that's for sure. Iron Resolve, Mantra of Strength, Benediction of Fury. So we're being able to deep strike. This guy's main job is to support an objective, either to help clear it or protect the intercessors holding it. Although slow, he's pretty tough and pretty punchy with the Melta and the Relic Croziers. That's certainly true. We have Librarian Terminator armor, the Combi Melta and the Force Sword. He is the Chief Librarian, he has the Psychic Mastery, he is Null Zone, Veil of Time, Visage of Death. If he's Chief Librarian, you're missing a power, because he would be allowed 3 powers. So maybe you want to add a power here, and then Visage of Death, Hero of the Chapter, Relic of the Chapter. Oh, Annabella, sorry guys, baby invasion.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Okay, she can open the door now. Can you close the door? Thank you. No, it's Tony Stark. Not did I say Stank? I'm sorry. But no, you can pick an additional power here. I'm not sure which power I would pick. A lot of people take Psychic Fortress. Maybe Fury of the Ancient might be an interesting one, just to be able to buff up that Chaplain. Doesn't Fury of the Ancients... No, not Fury of the Ancients, sorry, Might of Heroes. +1 toughness, +1 attacks, +1 strength on the chaplain might be pretty cool. I mean, like the Relic Crozius would then be like, I think the Relic Crozius is +2 strength. So if he's got Mantra of Strength, he could be +3 strength. So if you casted Might of Heroes on him, then he could potentially be 8 strength on that Relic Crozius. That would be pretty good. Able to support the Centaur and the Terminators, null zone any characters with heavy invuns, or teleport in to support an objective. Again, relatively punchy with this Melta. Also note, Sneaky Visage of Death. The Terminators don't get OBSEC, but there's 15 of them. You don't get OBSEC either. Okay, so I guess the idea is that the Visage of Death is to just remove the OBSEC from any enemy units so that all these Terminators in the field can steal primary objectives. Did you guys actually see her walking in? Yeah, she opens the door. She does it like all the time when I'm on conference calls at work. It's just like she just rocks in. It's like I probably need to get a lock on the door. Might of Heroes probably goes well with the list concept. My 13-year-old mold loves watching the dice rolls when watching battle reports. Annabella is like 15 and a half months, so just a little bit older, Alex. Alright, cool. So we've got 2 very tanky characters, and then we're rocking a Primaris Tech Marine, and he's going to babysit some tanks. And do you know what? I like the Primaris Tech Marine actually, because I didn't realise that his bolter's an assault weapon either. So it's like a heavy bolter, but it means that he can advance around, keeping those vehicles healed, and also keeping up with the vehicles, and using his awaken on them. So troops. So we've got 3 squads of intercessors, and they've all got auto bolt rifles, and we got a couple of power fists. We got a power fist on each of the sergeant. Nobody loves them. Everybody has loads. With a power fist in each, this is true. Nobody loves them and everybody has loads. I like your humour here, but this is definitely true. With a power fist in each squad, they've got a bit of punch and melee, and with assault bolters, they can advance and still shoot with a reasonable amount of strength 4 fire. They should be good to obseg some objectives, especially with a mass teleport backup. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably should be able to do that reasonably well. And then Khalid's Assassin, Reign of Confusion, no invulnerables against turn melee. And for 2 CP can be swapped out for a Calixis against psychic heavy armies, Vindicator for sniping support characters, or Eviscerator if I need a blender. Yeah, I mean, assassins are generally pretty cool, right? And I think all of them have a role. I don't believe I own a Khalid's Assassin. I'm just going to pull it up on Wikipedia real quick. I own a Calixis. That's the psychic one, and the Evisor, but I don't own a Khalid's one. So let me just remind myself which one this is. Khalid's Assassin, single model with Neuron Shredder. Oh, is this the one that gets to? Yeah, so it's basically a phase sword. So she gets like 5 attacks, and invulnerable saves cannot be made against her sword. Yeah, and she also, when she deep strikes in, she only sets up D6 plus 3 away from enemy models. So basically, like, if you manage to roll like a 1 for that, she essentially deep strikes in only 4 inches away as opposed to the normal 9 inches. So she can be pretty useful. And I guess she just has a 4+ invulnerable save as well. So I forget, is she the woman holding the sword in the air? Yeah, I thought so. So I don't have this assassin, but I think she's okay. I mean, for 100 points, I think she's probably pretty good, and she can definitely jump in and just shred something. Like, she could just kill an enemy character from outright almost. 2+ weapon skill. So Reign of Confusion and no invulnerables for her, and then I guess you could swap her out for another assassin as well. The baby heard this wasn't a traditional Blood Angels list and burst in because of the Black Rage. Yeah, maybe. I like the Eviscerator as well for like killing back. Like I often talk about killing backfield objectives. the Evisor is very good at killing backfield objectives because he gets like a pistol that has 4 shots and then he gets like 7 attacks or something with power sword. So he's very good as well. In a different sense, this guy is, I guess, more like a character killer or something like that. And I guess she can fall back and shoot and charge as well, which is quite nice. And her gun just does some up to D3 mortal wounds. Okay, and then Terminator Squads. So we've got 3 Terminator Squads, and these are Terminator Squads with Stormbolters, right? These aren't Terminator Squads with like close combat ones, right? Because we've got 2 with Chain Fist. I guess the other 2 would be Power Fists, and then the Sergeant would be the Power Sword. So relatively cheap Terminators, a bit of anti-infantry fire from the Stormbolters, decent melee punch in clearing objectives, and they can teleport into whichever objective needs support. Yeah, so I mean, I've used these Terminators a couple of times in 9th edition, and I generally felt like they were pretty useful, right? Like I sometimes ran them with like an assault cannon in here, but like I'm not even sure the assault cannon is really worth it because Terminators get bolt or discipline. An assault cannon really only gets like a couple extra shots, and I think it's like 10 or 15 points maybe. So I think bare bones Terminator squads like this are pretty good, and like you said, like the Stormbolters, with potential getting like a 5-man squad would get 20 shots, right? Because each bolter can shoot 4 shots. Then you're talking about if the enemy has chaff units, you can just, you have 60 bolter shots here. So against chaff units, you can clear that out reasonably effectively. And like you said, they're relatively cheap. Now, land speeders with multi-meltas. Mathhammer puts these at 11 points per wound at toughness 6, combined with 18-inch fly and the skilled rider stratagem. The hit and run if they get tagged should make them pretty annoying. To kill the meltas mean they can pack a punch too, either ganging up or things or nipping after isolated objectives and units. You know that hit and run can only be used if they advance, which maybe makes this idea a little bit weaker, but I mean, like Land Raiders with multi-meltas versus attack bikes, like you said, they basically have an additional point of toughness, they have an additional couple of wounds, and I guess that costs you 15 points. So that's about standard. So I mean, Land Speeders, fast mobile multi-meltas combined with all these Stormbolters, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Okay, this is interesting. 3 Vindicators with the Siege Shield. So basically it's Vindicators with a 2+ save against ranged weapons. I believe the Siege Shield only works against ranged weapons, but I mean, for the most part, the enemy are probably going to be shooting at Vindicators rather than charging them. So you got those Vindicators. Vindicators also have toughness 8, if I remember correctly. Like they're not chumps at all for the 2+ save toughness 8, right? And the one disadvantage with the Vindicators is, they are toughness 8, 11 wounds, and they do have a 2+ save against ranged attacks. The one disadvantage with the Vindicators is that their main cannon, which is basically the Demolisher cannon, strength 10 -3 d6 damage, is heavy 6, right? So it's like you can roll between 1 and 6, and if you roll 1 it's pretty crap, if you roll 6 it's pretty amazing. But I think with having 3 of them, you'll kind of average out your dice rolls a little bit, right? So admittedly it's a bit expensive and a bit short range, but with toughness 8 and the 2+ save, and that sneaky tech marine about for some heals, and I guess it would be a 2+ to hit on one of the vehicles if you awakened it, they should at least a few heavy strength 10 AP -3 6 damage shells, which will help with anti-tank. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I ran a Vindicator. I've run it twice maybe in 9th edition, and in one game it survived the whole game, and it was just popping out, like it did like maybe not like 15 strength 10 hits, and I didn't win that game, I believe, but I mean, like, it wasn't the Vindicator's fault. Like, I felt like the Vindicator was decent. So, like, it's a bit swingy. But I mean, you said that you wanted to be trying things that people aren't trying. Well, I don't think you can play Predators right now. I mean, I don't think anyone's taking Predators or Ball Predators. They're just overcosted and poor. Very few people are taking Land Raiders right now. I mean, people aren't taking Repulsors or Repulsor Executioners. So I guess like if you say like all those units, and then I don't know if anyone's running that new Gladiator. I haven't played a game since the new Gladiator came out. Hopefully we're going to get back to playing very, very soon. The COVID thing is driving me crazy. I really want to play. I really want to get back to our live show that we were doing on Monday nights with live games. But like, if you ask me to compare all those things, I prefer a Vindicator. And I know it is swingy, but at least when it hits, it's going to do reasonably well. You know, like the Predator is so expensive, and you get a couple of las cannons. You know, like it's, you miss one and you wound one. It's so poor. So yeah, I mean, if I was going to do it, and the Vindicator's a cool model as well. I actually don't own one with the Siege Shield, but I've always liked the look of them with the Siege Shield. And then Heroes of the Chapter and Relics of the Chapter, 1 CP. I think we already covered those. So this comes in at 2,000 points, and it feels very different. So we got 15 Terminators, 3 Land Speeders, 3 Vindicators, 3 squads of Intercessors with guns, the Primaris Tech Marine, the Librarian, the Chaplain, and the Assassin. So this is crazy different to most lists. Okay, overall, not the most mobile when all those Terminators have deployed, and the characters are perhaps not optimal either, but it's a cool image, all those Terminators dropping down, and there should be something to deal with any threats that pop up. Importantly, has the potential to deal damage in all 3 phases in case of a Catan and Gaskell. Yeah, I mean, you know, having the Librarian does help that, but yeah, I mean, I guess you definitely need to pick a third power because you're missing 1 power from that Librarian. We've got loads of CP to play with. We should be able to wound more or less anything in the game, or 2 and 3 with all those power fists. Anti-infantry, we've got 18 storm bolters, 15 assault bolters, and a decent amount of melee. Anti-tank, 3 multi-meltas, 6 chain fists, and 9 power fists. Anti-anything that wants to blow up, 3 demolisher cannons. 108 damage per shooting phase. I like your optimism here, right? Like, you're gonna roll 6 for each of the 3 Vindicators to get 18 shots, and then from those 18 shots you're going to roll 6 on that d6 for the damage as well. I mean, I like the optimism. Weakness, can it be a bit slow to get in position? I mean, just half that is realistically what it's going to do. Maybe even less than half. Can be a bit slow to get in position, especially if the opponent is fielding a lot of infiltrators and screening the board to make deep strike harder. But on the flip side, I don't have to deep strike those Terminators. I can foot slog them up to the middle, something that might be handy against assault hordes, etc., where their storm bolters can be firing from turn 1. Yeah, lots of vehicles for bring it down. Even with drop-in points, there's still 6 vehicles in the list. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something that the list gives away, so I don't know if that's a big deal. Less durable characters. I mean, they are less durable characters, but they are also in Terminator armor, so they shouldn't have to deal with too... You know, they'd be pretty good against small arms fire. Deep Strike Seraphim with Infernal Pistols could drop in and delete a character. However, I'm not reliant on any characters, so losing one isn't really the end of the world. Yeah, I mean, they could drop in and kill them with Infernal Pistols, but you do have an invulnerable save. So, and I mean, that's something you just sometimes have to deal with, right? If they had a ton of deep striking Seraphim with Melta Pistols, maybe you wait, you kind of hope that he drops them in before you drop in your characters. You're like, your characters don't need to be there from turn 1, right? His Blood Angels are amazing. Just sub to Evan's channel. Yeah, that's cool. Evan, that Blood Angel that you painted earlier, it looks so badass. I love it. So it's a cool conversion as well. I mean, looks like, I don't even know what the hell, looks like an aggressor helmet maybe? Aggressor helmet, Judicar body, I don't know what sword this is. Blade Guard shield. I love conversions when, and I think this is a Saguaro Guard shoulder pad or something. Like, I love conversions when every part of the model is a bit different or something like that. I think it's very cool. Okay. So yeah, I mean, maybe there should have been a scoring thing here for fun, because like, is it a fun list? So OBSEC, I think I'm going to be a bit generous and say that it's like a 9 because, like you said, there's 15 Terminators there and there's Visions of Death. So I mean, if you want to stack all those Terminators somewhere, it could be very difficult for your opponent to contest primaries. Anti-Horde Infantry, I guess we talked about having 60 Stormbolter shots. I guess you've got 45 Assault Bolter shots. So Anti-Horde is actually probably, like, you'd definitely be able to clear screens. It's weird because, like, normally clearing screens to get our deep striking units into charge is like the key thing, but here it'd almost be like you're clearing screens and then you've got Terminators slowly waddling across the board 5 inches at a time to eventually charge them. It's an Eradicator helmet. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Eradicators probably have the same helmet as aggressors, right? I think it's just maybe a standard Phobos helmet. So I think anti-infantry, anti-horde, I guess, is probably 9. I'm struggling a little bit because it's very different to what normally we'd run. And then, yeah, we've got those Vindicators, and obviously they're going to do their 108 damage per turn, maybe. And we have those mobile multi-meltas, and we have chain fists. So, I mean, I don't think you're going to have too many problems, really. Chain fists right now, what are they? They're a flat 3 damage against vehicles. I haven't run Terminators with chain fists for a while. Chain fists. Yeah, D3 damage or a flat 3 against vehicles, and they are -4. Okay, so I think we'll go with a 9 there as well. I guess mobility wise, maybe like a 7. It is kind of poor. I mean, you've got your land speeders, but the rest of things are maybe kind of like a lot of foot slogging. So maybe like 7, and then specialization. Like, I don't think we need to penalize you for specialization in any way, shape, or form. Like, maybe 450 points of Vindicators could be potentially done better. Like, would 2 Leviathan Dreadnoughts maybe be better? I feel like it would be more reliable just because those D6s on those Vindicators is so swingy. Whereas, like, on the Leviathans with the Grav Fluxes and the new Volkite cannons, you could get like 24 Volkite shots and potentially like probably on average like 12 Grav cannon shots. Like, I feel like that would probably be better. And obviously Leviathans can have a claw as well, so they can just walk across the battlefield. They have to be dealt with. And there was a stratagem last edition for Vindicators, right? But I guess it's gone. So I think specialization is like 8s. And I do like the fact that you've tried to use things that not everybody's using and keep it a bit different. I think you said that you were going to like take it to tabletop tactics tournament or something. Sorry, not tabletop simulator tournament or something. I think you'll have fun with it. I think you may end up getting unstuck, and I think you may end up what am I trying to say? You may end up being like victim of the swinginess of those Vindicators, and you may end up having some issues with slowness of the Terminators. But I think that list could win some games. I mean, it definitely could win some games. I mean, you could even use those Vindicators to sit on your backfield objectives, right? But you said no Dreadnoughts. But I mean, Dreadnoughts are super powerful right now, so it's hard for me to not suggest things, I guess, that are super powerful. I hate putting together Hellblasters. Why are the legs a separate piece? I haven't built Hellblasters since the start of Dark Imperium, so I have no idea. Assassins and Inquisitors in a Blood Angels list. I mean, we could definitely do that in the future. It's not a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, that... So, I think you will come unstuck with the list, Tony, but I mean, I think it is nice to... I think it is nice to try something different. But I think probably after you've played a few battles with that, you may end up wanting to do something a bit more competitive. But, things... It all goes round and round. Like, something that isn't competitive today, in 6 months' time, in the next edition, probably could be more competitive. And the Derrideo Dreadnought actually is very strong right now as well. And the Contemptor with those new Volkite cannons, again, is very well costed and very strong as well. So, yeah, okay, hopefully... I guess, like, normally at the end of the list I make suggestions on what people can change, but, I mean, like... I think you know what you want to change. If you want to submit a list that you actually... want to have at like the highest competitive level, then I think that's where I'm more useful for here. It's tricky for me to suggest anything because it's like the stuff you've got seems like it would synergize together reasonably well. Yeah, I'm struggling with that one. But yeah, if you want to drop me any questions in the chat, or you want to let me know what you're thinking, we can do some final pointers before we move on. Okay. Cool. So next up is Joe Dawson, and it would work well in a narrative game, the units that are left behind. Yeah, I mean, the end of Devastation of Baal, all the good units were dead, and this is what we had left. And yeah, I mean, I think it's fun to make lists that could be competitive that aren't using what everybody's using, right? Because what everybody's using potentially can start to feel a bit samey, maybe. Okay, so moving on to list number 3 today, we've got Joe Dawson, and he says, my first Blood Angels list, so I really don't know what I'm doing. Mostly based around models I like, but trying to make it competitive list, all the same. Any advice on Warlord traits, relics would be great, and any other tips or alterations, welcome to. Love your content, keep it up. What was the score? I gave it 42. We marked it down on mobility, and we kind of left... like it generally would be very good at dealing with hordes, and it did have that Visage of War to remove obsecking. So, I mean, I think it's a decent score for an unorthodox list, I guess is what I would say. I don't know how you would really make it any higher without starting to put in those key picks that everybody's using, right? Tony, which I think you just wanted to stay away from. Okay, so starting with Joe's list then. We have a captain with a Thunderhammer, Jump Pack, Storm Shield, and we roll for random traits. Oh no, we don't. I don't know why he's put Storm Shield 3. But we do not roll for random traits. We pick a good Warlord trait, and I did a video this week talking about some of my favourite Warlord traits. Imperium Sword, Gift of Foresight. You can use Artisan of War to pick up something like the Adamantium Mantle. I'm trying to think what else I really like on... What else do I really like on a Smash Captain? I mean, Rites of War. I don't tend to use it, but a lot of people like it. So, definitely pick your Warlord trait, and also definitely consider Angel's Exemplar on your Warlord as well. Yeah. Because Angel's Exemplar lets you pick a second Warlord trait, so you can combo up some of those strong ones like Imperium Sword, combo it up with like Artisan of War, or Gift of Foresight. So I would definitely pick your Warlord trait, and I definitely think about Angel's Exemplar as an option for your Warlord. Yeah, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Winner and not a drop of Glat Bold or Phobos in sight. Yeah, I mean that is true. Not a drop of Phobos in sight. I like Phobos, man. Though I mean, I didn't when I first realised that I need to buy a lot of Phobos. Speed of the Primarch is a weird one, Terry, in that you know, it only helps your Warlord when he's charged. If you get charged, you still fight second, even if you have Speed of the Primarch. So for that and for that reasoning, I kind of rate it a little bit lower. And the Librarian Dreadnought with the Meltagan Quickening Wings of Sanguinius, this is absolutely fine. I mean, this is probably what I'd recommend. I would consider Hero of the Chapter in this guy. And there's two great ones you can pick. The first one I like a lot is Iron Resolve, which is +1 wound, +1, plus a 6+ feel no pain, which is generally very good. The other one he can take is Champion of Humanity, right? His biggest weakness is his ballistic skill of 3. And Champion of Humanity basically gives him +1 when he's in engagement range of enemy characters. So basically what you would end up doing is getting that, you know, like he can get 10 attacks and you can have a 2+ ballistic skill. It's pretty legit, and basically you'll be able to do a lot of damage against enemy characters with Champion of Humanity. Find a person to do Narrative Crusade videos, then you and Evan have a painting Narrative Crusade campaign covered, and you could call yourself the Triforce of the Angels. Yeah. So yeah, I think you need to consider a couple of different ones there. Troops, Incursors, Infiltrators, and Intercessors. I mean, I like how you've actually, if you're new and you've realised you get free chainsword on the Intercessors, that's cool. I don't know if you need 4 troop choices. I generally recommend 3. And I generally recommend 3 Phobos, but 2 Phobos is decent. You know, Infiltrators to hold your backfield objective, Incursors to maybe hold a midfield objective and like set up a staging area, and then Intercessors coming across the battlefield. I would say maybe you could save this 100 points on the second Intercessor squad and get something more valuable. We'll see as we move on. The Death Company, the 5-man Death Company with 1 Thunderhammer. I like this a lot. I use it a lot. It does a lot of damage. About the only other option really you have against this would be your 5 Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws. Slightly more survivable, but slightly less damage. Leviathan Dreadnought with the Leviathan Siege Claw, the Meltagun, and the Storm Cannon. And then 3 Hunter Killer Missiles. Generally, I don't buy Hunter Killer Missiles. You know, like 5 points for a weapon you only get to shoot once is not my favourite thing. So I would try and spend the points elsewhere. But, you know, like one of these Death Company Marines could take an Infernal Pistol. That might be an option. But, I mean, Hunter Killer Missiles are fine. I just don't typically like to spend the points on a gun that's only going to get shoot once. And Storm Cannon is a strange choice right now. Storm Cannons took a nerf, both in how many shots they get, and their AP, and how much they cost. I actually think the Grav Flux is in a better place than the Storm Cannon, but I mean, if you're using the Storm Cannon to just kill, you know, troops, whereas the Grav Flux is more anti-armor, I guess that's the way to look at that. A Terminator Squad with Thunderhammers and Storm Shields. I mean, generally, Terminator Squads with Thunderhammer and Storm Shields are absolutely fine. Dropping in to take out the toughest targets. They're obviously survivable with their 3 wounds now. Then we have a Vanguard Veteran Squad, and it is Lightning Claws, Jump Pack, Storm Shield. I don't know why it's saying 3. Oh, is it saying that there's 3 No, it can't be saying. I don't know why it's saying Storm Shield 3. And then Vanguard Veteran with a Relic Blade and Storm Shield. I think the points are off there because the Relic Blade would be a little bit more expensive. I believe a Relic Blade on these guys is 10 points. And I thought 5 of them with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields were 140 points. So I think you're maybe like 7 points out here. And then we have the Plasma Inceptors that everybody's running. Makes sense. I mean, I guess you could fix that by dropping one of these Hunter-Killer missiles or something. And then we have a Land Raider with a Hunter-Killer missile as well. Is the Land Raider, that'll be the one that's got the twin heavy bolter and the 2 twin las cannons. You get more use out of 3 Hunter-Killer missiles than a 6-inch pistol and 1 Death Company model. I mean, maybe. But, you know, you're comparing 15 points there, Mark, against 5 points, right? Because I'm just talking about replacing 1 Hunter-Killer missile. Storm Shield 3 is part of how the GW app denotes war gear options. Okay. I haven't used the GW app, I'm just still using Excel myself. And then Land Raider with... So what can go in the Land Raider? I guess the Death Company could go in the Land Raider, the Vanguard Veterans could... I suppose the Terminators could as well, but it seemed like a strange choice. But none of your troops could go in the Land Raider, obviously. I was thinking about using Land Raider to deliver the Terminators into combat to try and negate the risk of not making the charge after Deep Strike. I have no idea if this is really viable. I mean, it can be. I mean, the Land Raider moves, what, like 10 inches, I think, is a Land Raider? So, the Land Raider moves forward 10, you disembark within 3, then you move forward 5, and then you make your charge. So, I mean, technically, at that point, if you're happy for them to chill in the Land Raider for turn 1, you've got them 18 inches forward on the battlefield. So, if the enemy has deployed on the edge, then, you know, of the deployment zone, then you probably only need to make like a 6-inch charge or something. I feel like if you're going to put Terminators in a Land Raider, though, then they're protected, and I would rather not it be the close combat Terminators, right? So, like, they come out of Land Raider, they're able to use those, like, what did we say, 20 bolt gun shots to clear out any chaff or any screens and then charge. Because the reason these guys, I guess, would have Storm Shield is to make them survivable. So if they're in a Land Raider, then the Storm Shields essentially are kind of wasted. But, I mean, it's not a bad idea. The one thing to say, though, is if you do drop these guys down, drop them into terrain or something, and then they can basically have a 1+ save from... You know, because the Storm Shield gives them a 2+ save, and then they add 1 from cover. So basically, a 1+ save basically means they can ignore -1 AP. So, on -1 AP weapon, they would still save on 2s. So it's generally very strong against... it can generally be very strong against, like, small arms fire. And, you know, like, -2, they would still save on 3s. So, if you are worried about the deep strike charge failure, then I guess consider dropping them into terrain, and also consider using your command rerolls for the charge reroll. Like if I'm deep striking a model, be it Death Company or be it Terminators, I pretty much always save that 1 CP to do the charge reroll if you need it. If you don't have enough CP for the charge reroll, then you definitely wanted to be dropping into cover. I would deep strike the Death Company and maybe the Vanguard Veterans as well. Maybe. I tend to try and see what the map looks like before you just, like, blanketly decide, like, hey, I'm going to deep strike unit A, B, and C. I like to see what the map looks like, what the options are. Is there terrain that I can deep strike and hide behind? And then make the call, right? But, I mean, have that in your mind for sure. Main reason for going for the Smash Captain instead of a Biker is aesthetics. I know the Biker Captains are very strong. Yeah, so the Biker Captains are very strong, but... and what did you say? I'm trying to see what relics that were picked as well. Yeah, so this basically says that you've got 12 command points. So definitely give this guy a relic. The Librarian Dreadnought cannot take a relic, so give this warlord a relic, and I guess what relic you could give him would be, if you wanted to be very powerful in terms of offense, give them the Hammer of Baal. If you want to be survivable, give them the Armor Indomitus. That would give him the same 1-up save and give him an extra wound. I'm sure other people could think of some other... I mean, you could give him Visage of Death for -1 to hit. I believe Visage of Death is just -1 to hit. Tony, maybe that's it. Maybe you need to consider drop 2 of those Vindicators cost the same as that Land Raider with the Hunter Killer Missile. So maybe if you have the Land Raider, your list could be better just because it would be less swingy. Like, I'm just worried about when you shoot those Vindicators and you roll 1s for their d6 shots, and that's going to be a real waste of a turn. Okay, so for a first list, I guess, Joe, it's reasonable. I'd probably definitely lose one of these squads of troops. Free up the 100 points, and what are we going to use those 100 points on? Let me think for a minute. You know, well, if you did free up the 100 points and you dropped, let's say you dropped these 3 Hunter Killer Missiles, that gives us 115 points. You drop this Hunter Killer Missile here as well, that gives us 120 points. Trying to think, like, for 110 points you can get 2 attack bikes with multi-meltas, or you could do almost do what Tony did in the last list and get some land speeders in with multi-meltas as well. Or if you did free up those 120 points, you could make this Plasma Inceptor Squad 5-man Plasma Inceptor Squad. That gives you potentially 30 plasma shots when these guys drop in, which is a lot of plasmas. If you drop them in near your warlord so you can reroll 1s, that's a lot of damage potentially. So yeah, and I mean, I guess you could play 1 CP for Descent of the Angels when they drop in. So you basically have all those plasmas, 30 plasma shots on high power, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. That's going to do a lot of damage. So I'd probably do something like that. I mean, maybe there's a slight question mark about this Land Raider and the Terminator Squad, but I mean, it is possible. You asked, like, is it viable? I've definitely had Land Raiders with Terminators inside in 9th edition, and I've done fine. I prefer to have ones that have bolt guns. If they're going to be protected inside a Land Raider, then the Storm Shields aren't going to do a whole lot for you. You jump out Land Raider, you shoot your 20 bolters, and then you go off on a charge. And that way, if you fail your charge, at least you still did some damage with your bolters, right? I do think maybe the Storm Cannon could be swapped out for a Grav Cannon. But yeah, I mean, it's a good first list. And I mean, the other option with us saving 120 points is to get a 3rd character in here, because HQs are generally very good for us. Obviously, like, a lot of people are using stuff like the Saguaro Priest, but there are some other great characters that we can have. The Primaris Chaplain on a bike is a monster. He can do a lot of damage. You haven't spent very much at all on Heroes of the Chapter or Relics of the Chapter in this list, so you could have the Primaris Chaplain on the bike with the Manta of Strength, the Benediction of Fury. You could give him some sort of relic as well. Another option would be like a Death Company Lieutenant or Captain. A Death Company Captain with 100 points. He could be a Primaris Captain. Or, I mean, he could be another simple Jump Captain with like a chainsword, and you give him the Teeth of Terra, so he can basically get like 10 attacks. The one I'm running is a Death Company Captain on a bike. 130 points, and he has the Teeth of Terra, and he gets like 10 attacks base with that. So, you know, hitting on 2s, wounding infantry models pretty reliably on 2s. He's just an absolute blender against infantry models. He carries a Storm Shield and a you know, because he's on a bike, he has a toughness 5. So there's lots of different options here, but this is a good first list. So I'll score it, and yeah, I mean, maybe not super competitive in all parts, and I do feel like it's strange to see Death Company and Vanguard veterans and no Sanguinary Guard, in that Sanguinary Guard are kind of our most potent unit in terms of raw damage, but you know, maybe if you're a new player, you haven't got round to buying Sanguinary Guard yet, so that's something to consider. But I mean, Sanguinary Guard to me tend to work best in squads of like 7 to 9, and I guess like the only way you'd be fitting in a Sanguinary Guard is like you would have to consider dropping the Terminators, which would mean dropping the Land Raider, or changing everything around a bit. So I'm not sure that quite works with where you are right now, but I mean, make some of the small improvements that I said maybe, and then we'll come back to me with a future list. Something else I'd say, like if you're a new player, I don't know what COVID is like where you are, but like if you've never played Blood Angels, then you need to play the list a few times to get a feel for its strengths and weaknesses, right? Like so don't just randomly start changing it. Make a couple of small changes. I think the thing you have to do is spend this extra 100 points better from this Intercessor Squad, and then take it from there. It occurs to me that now we've basically nailed down what considers the optional competitive Blood Angels list. Might be interesting to see how far we can push it. Probably not going to see much change until the game can be played again, though. Yeah, I mean, that is true, Mark. It's very like I was on an 8-game win streak with a super heavy tank that cost 615 points in my army list. Someone actually asked, they were like, can Blood Angels still win games with shooting? And I was like, well, I take 615 points of shooting plus a Tech Marine, who is the Master of the Forge, so he's another 90 points. So basically I have 705 points of shooting in my list, and I win just about every game. In fact, it was on an 8-game win streak. So and do you know what, that tank actually like point for point is worse than Eradicators. So like there is strategies to be found that will win games that are not what everybody else is doing. The problem is, to find those strategies we need to play games, and right now, I mean, I'm not playing any games, not through choice unfortunately, but yeah, I know Land Raiders are expensive, but a Land Raider Crusader would be able to charge in and shoot infantry. Also, if you throw a multi-meltdown hunter killer, it would be able decent against heavies. Yeah, I mean, the Crusader is an interesting option just because it can store 16 units, right? Okay, so objective holding. I guess we do have 4 troops in this list. So probably something like a 9 makes sense. How are we against small arms? Chaff and infantry. This list is definitely going to be a bit weaker against that. It lacks a bit of firepower. I mean, I guess maybe it does have that one twin-linked heavy bolter. It does have those plasma Inceptors actually. So yeah, maybe it's okay. So maybe it's like an 8.5, something like that. And then against heavier targets, I mean, we do have the Terminators with Thunderhammers. We do have those last cannon, 4 of them. We do have our Librarian Dreadnought, which we know can do a ton of damage. We have the Leviathan Dreadnought with 300 killer missiles. Obviously, the Storm Cannons aren't going to do so much. You know what? You never mentioned which other guns you need on the Leviathan, and you need to pick the Volkites over the Flamers. I just think the Flamers are very limiting, and the Volkites have a lot more range and probably end up and do a lot more damage. So anti-armor against here. And I guess we've got our captain with his Thunderhammer. It's pretty decent. I think it's not bad at all. I guess like this list is going to come down to the skill of the player, I guess. But overall, like I feel like you could win games with this list for sure. It's a bit different from the standard, but like Tony's last list was a bit different from the standard. This isn't bad at all either. And in some ways, Terminators are probably a little bit more interesting than Sanguinary Guard, just because Terminators actually survive. Whereas Sanguinary Guard are great at jumping in and killing things, but once they've killed them, they don't tend to survive all that good. So yeah, I think anti-armor we're going with like an 8.5. Mobility wise, I mean, I guess the Land Raider has a bit of mobility. The Terminators are going to be our one really unmobile unit, and I guess like a couple of our troops are unmobile, but overall, like mobility is probably like an 8, I'd say. And then specialization, I don't think this list really specialized too much at all. Like I think it is quite rounded. It has a good amount of shooting. I usually say that I like about 400 or 500 points of shooting in a Blood Angels list. I mean, this is a little higher, I guess, in that we've got Inceptors, we've got Leviathan Dread, we've got Land Raider, so it's probably pushing more like 600-700 points. I guess probably 800 points when you include these intercessors. So maybe this list is actually too focused on shooting right now. So maybe it's like a 7 for specialization. But I mean, I don't think there's too much that needs to change to make this list a little bit more competitive. So thank you very much, Joe, for the submission. Welcome to the chapter, I guess. And if you want to make some tweaks, play some games and get back to me, I'd love to hear what you think. But I don't know if the Games Workshop app is just not very good at including relics and warlord traits, and maybe you just left it because you weren't sure. But hopefully I've mentioned a few things that would definitely be worth picking. I was able to play a small 25 power level game last night against Tau, and he was tabled in turn 3. Tau are in a bad place right now, from what I understand. I haven't actually got to play many games against Tau in 9th edition, but I think that's just because my friends that play Tau also play other armies, and they haven't been bringing the Tau because they are in quote unquote a bad place. So, alright, so we're moving on to Rambo next, and hopefully we help James out. Oh, sorry, no, not James, Joe. As soon as Land Raider degrades, its mobility is worse than a guy on foot. 10, 5, 3. Yeah, that's very true. The Land Raiders do degrade pretty heavily, I guess. But if you're trying to get Terminators forward, then you would assume that the Land Raider would move forward its whole 10 in turn 1. At 5 inches movement, are Terminators that slow? No, I mean they're not, but I don't think that list included paying any points for the redeploy Homer, and yeah, you're probably right. The Land Raiders are a bit of a massive cost. You know, if you compare a Land Raider to like a Redemptor Dreadnought or something, you know, it's almost double the cost, and it doesn't bring that much more firepower. It really is the transport aspect of it that you are paying for, and yeah, I mean, like it's hard to say. I mean, I think you can definitely make a Land Raider work, but I guess if you are going to make that Land Raider work, you just need to make sure that what's coming out that Land Raider is very versatile, and that's why I think I would prefer regular Terminators with Stormbolters over close combat Terminators, because it feels like it would work really well. But if the enemy get the first turn, can they destroy the Land Raider before it gets to move? Or as Alex said, or sorry, as Jay said, can they, if the enemy gets to shoot the Land Raider before it gets to move, they could really knacker its profile, which may end up causing you problems. So it's probably why Land Raiders don't see so much play. And I mean, I have 2-3 Land Raiders, I think, and I don't really use any of them. So yeah, I mean, based on that, they're probably just a little bit 2-point heavy at the moment, and the fact that there's no invulnerable save as well. You know, like paying 300 points for a model that has no invulnerable save is pretty rubbish when there's so many like drop pods and multi-meltas around. It's too easy for enemies to just delete something like that off the board before you even get to use it. Tau suck badly at the moment onto objectives after clearing you off due to their lack of close quarters melee ability. Yeah, I believe that's what I've heard about Tau as well. I think they're going to get some sort of fall back and shoot stratagem, or some sort of improvement to fall back and shoot, because otherwise they're in a very strange place. Alright, so this list is by Rambo. Ram with the space, obviously. Rambo, not the real Rambo from the movies. And he has 2 extra relics. We start with the Vindicator Assassin, which is the sniper assassin, right? I feel like it is. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, so he's the assassin that could basically snipe. And I believe he basically has like a... I checked it out recently. I don't know if it's super strong, but I mean, he has a rifle that can ignore... Did I just click the wrong one? Yeah. He has a rifle that... How does it work again? He doesn't have to look out... He can ignore lookout sir or something. You can ignore lookout sir. In addition, unmodified rolls of 6 cause the damage of the weapon to become d6. It's just a heavy one though. And you do wound infantry on a 2+. So it's a heavy one, ballistic skill of 2, wound infantry on a 2+, AP -3, 3 damage, but a wound roll of 6 means d6, and then there's some sort of crazy headshot rule where if the model lost any wounds, then you roll a d6 on that 3+, the model suffers a mortal wound. If it's not destroyed, you roll another d6 on a 4+, it's another mortal wound, and you keep going and so forth. So basically it's a sniper that can do some damage against enemy characters. Primarily it's going to be decent against infantry characters. Okay, then we have the captain, who's the jump pack. He's a mastercrafted bolt gun. That seems like a strange choice, but okay. A relic blade, Rites of War, Angel's Exemplar, Visage of Death, and he is the Warlord. Mastercrafted bolt gun over a mastercrafted relic blade? That confuses me. You're going to get a lot more attacks with the relic blade than you would with the bolt gun, so I don't know why you wouldn't mastercraft that if you're going to mastercraft one of them. And also, the captain doesn't have a storm shield, so he's going to be a bit weaker because of that as well. Vindicator used to ignore invulnerables. Is that still there? Yeah, you can't take an invulnerable save either against the rifle, I guess. Okay, and then the Librarian, who's Veil of Time, Null Zone, Psychic Fortress. He is a Chief Librarian, he has a jump pack, he has a Psychic Mastery, and he's wearing Armour Indomitus. So I actually kind of like the idea of giving him Armour Indomitus because you want him to survive, because, you know, he is a little bit weaker, I guess, in that he's just got that normal 3-up save, but I feel like he would be better with the Tomb of Malkador, but I mean, I guess it's situational. And then we obviously have the Chief Apothecary. Everybody runs this Chief Apothecary. The bolt gun comes mastercrafted, I believe, on a captain. Oh, maybe. That shows how often I run a captain without replacing him with a storm shield, i.e. never. Good evening, Mohammed. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in tonight. Captain. Oh, I think you're right. You just... A regular captain, he comes with a mastercrafted bolt gun. Alright, that's why... Okay, madness. I literally never run a captain, but you know... Oh, well, never run a captain without making him all melee or giving him like an infernal pistol. Okay, so troops. We have auto bolt rifle intercessors, and we have 5 of them. He's actually paid for the grenade launcher. I'm not sure that I feel the grenade launcher is really worth it. I'm sure there's a better way we could spend 5 points. Then we have another squad with bolt rifles, and then we have another squad with auto bolt rifles and quake bolts. Okay, and then elites, it's Sanguinary Guard, and it's 2, 4, 6, 7 Sanguinary Guard with swords, another 2, 4, 6, 7 with swords, another 2, 4, 6, 7 with swords, and then Terminators with Thunderhammers, 5 of them, and then Eradicators with Melt Rifles, 4 of them, and then a Whirlwind with a Castellan launcher. It's weird that he hasn't included any of the points cost as we run down the list. Okay, so the Vindicator Assassin, a Captain with a Jump Pack and Rites of War, Visage of Death, the Librarian, the Priest, 3 Intercessor Squads, 2 with autos, 1 with regulars, 21 Sanguinary Guard, 5 Terminators, and then 4 Eradicators and a Whirlwind. So strategy is mostly be charging. Vindicator will hang in the back line on terrain, and Whirlwind will be obscured behind the same terrain within 3 inches of the Vindicator to give him Look Out Sir. Only taking Whirlwind for suppression fire strat or for inflicting fight last and no Overwatch debuffs. That's correct. The Vindicator can give something Look Out Sir if it's within 3 inches, is that right? Not that I'm seeing. Unless there's a stratagem that can be used on them. And Whirlwind will be obscured within the same terrain and within 3 inches of the Vindicator to give him Look Out Sir. Okay, someone needs to explain that to me because I'm not seeing it. How can the Vindicator Assassin give another unit Look Out Sir? I do like how we can use double kill though. No, I'm not seeing. Each time you select a target for this weapon, you can ignore the Look Out Sir rule. In addition, I don't know. Oh, maybe. Oh, I'm with you, right? Yes, you're right. So the Vindicator is within 3 inches, so that the enemies can't shoot him with Look Out Sir. All right. I was confused. I was thinking he can give the Whirlwind shots Look Out Sir. I was like, what? I never heard of that. Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. Alright, so he's protected is what he's trying to do. Sorry, I didn't understand the way it was written. Alright, bolt rifle intercessors will stay in the back line. Maybe they should be stalkers instead. Yeah, I mean if you're gonna stick in the back line with the intercessors, then you do want stalkers. I do think these would be better as Phobos units, but you know, we've often talked about how Phobos units are better, so consider Phobos troops if you aren't considering them already. Terminators, Eradicators, and Auto Bolt Rifle Intercessors will stay in the middle of the board. One of the Auto Bolt Rifle Sergeants will have Quake Bolts, which will help the Terminators hit on 3s with the Thunder Hammers. I mean, I guess that makes sense. We'll put 1 to 3 Sanguinary Guard into Deep Strike frontline charging units. Captain stays close to the Sanguinary Guard. He gives OBSEC, denies enemy OBSECs, and is reliable in melee. I feel like if you're going to take Rites of War or Visage of Death, you do not need to take the other one. I don't take either of those, and I don't typically have a problem. If you watch my video this week when we talked about you know, like you only need to get 15 points in one turn to basically max your primaries. Do you really need to be spending all your relics to get all those objective points? For me, I feel like you don't need to, but I mean, a lot of people run it. You know, once we get playing again, and if I start losing games on primaries by 5 points, then I'll consider it. But right now, I'm not feeling the need to take it. Psyker can even stay in mid-board with the shooters to give Psychic Fortress, or push up with Sanguinary Guard to give them fight first, or deny enemy invulnerables with Null Zone. Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about this Psyker. He's very useful. Saguaro Priest can also stay middle, or push up to give 6++++, and healing where required. So yeah, obviously giving the 6 Feel No Pain on the Sanguinary Guard will be definitely useful. The list counters Overwatch, Invulnerables, and Fight Last, which are the main counters to Blood Angels. And I think you're right here. It does counter a few of the main problems that we have, which are Overwatch, Fighting Last, Fighting First. So in some ways this list is similar to sort of the strategy that I have. It's different units, but it's a similar sort of strategy. So, you know, it's hard to argue with this priest. It's hard to argue with the librarian. This captain, I prefer him on a bike because he's more survivable, and I would rather be alive at the end of the game and do more killing than potentially steal an objective from enemies for one turn. Again, the Phobos units, again, they're just going to be generally better at holding the objectives or securing the positions on the map. And then 3 groups of Sanguinary Guard. I feel like I talk a lot about Sanguinary Guard. They're amazing when they make the charge. When they don't make the charge, they're not so good. And having no invulnerable save is not so good either. So this is why I like to run some Vanguard Vets. This is why I like to run some Death Company. I tend to run one of each of the 3 squads. I can understand why some people are totally narrow-minded, focused on Sanguinary Guard. They do the most damage, but does it give you the most versatility in a game, having 3 of the exact same squad? I'd argue no. You know, like, I often let my Vanguard Vets push up early. They have those storm shields. They can be just generally more of a nuisance and more survivable. And then hang my Sanguinary Guard back and only charge when I know that they're 100% going to make the charge. So, I mean, this list is fine. And then the Terminators to potentially deep strike into the middle and have those sort of anti-vehicle hammers is generally quite good. I do feel like there's definitely some argument right now to having a mix with Terminators. So it's like some Thunderhammer guys and some Lightning Claw guys. And then that gives the squad like an overall better dynamic or better options maybe. But overall, this list makes a lot of sense, and I mean the strategy makes a lot of sense. The Vindicator to try and pop characters though, I don't know if I rate the Vindicator for 100 points, right? Like, so for 100 points you get 1 heavy attack, and sure you hit on 2s and you probably wound on 2s. So over the course of the game you potentially end up doing, I don't know, maybe 6 to 10 wounds against enemy characters. So it's viable, but like I'm unsure. I'd love to play it. Like, maybe I'll order one of these guys and try it in my list. They do cost the exact same point as the Suppressor Squad, so you know, like, what's going to be better? 9 autocannons every turn, and every unit that you hit has no overwatch against sniping a character, and it's going to take a few turns for them to kill the character, right? Unless you get really lucky with the dice rolls, you're probably going to have to shoot the character. I'd probably say like 3 or 4 times to kill them, right? Because if you think about if you shoot like a Space Marine character, like a captain, he's still going to get to save on 5 or 6, maybe, depending on like if he's got Storm Shield or not. And then it's D3 damage, which will average just 2, and maybe he's got to feel no pain. So it's a lot of points. It's 100 points to maybe kill a character over the course of the game if you get some good rolls. Whereas you could pay 100 points in suppressors and be like, I'm going to remove the ability for all infantry to shoot Overwatch pretty much every turn, and then, you know, you still have a 42-inch range, and you can do that every turn as well. So, yeah. Does anyone in chat run Vindicator Assassins in their groups? The temp drop even more. Minus 4. That's cold for me. Yesterday was 21 degrees. You don't know how lucky you are, Mark. What do you think about the -1 to hit in melee? I think the -1 to hit in melee is not so good as you would think it is, because quite often when you end up in melee, you end up against other armies that are using shit like power fists. And like, if a power fist is -1 to hit, then that just means that the -1 to hit that you've paid for in melee gives you no advantage, right? Because you can't ever modify a dice for more than -1. So, you know, like, it's one of the reasons that I would say Dante has a problem as well in melee, because like in Dante, you know, like, you think, oh, Dante will be really strong because that -1 to hit. Well, anyone that's got power fists or chain fists, you know, you're playing against Chaos, for example, they have tons of power fists and chain fists. It's just like Dante's mask gives him no bonus whatsoever. So, for 10 points, Thunderhammers are so great on Terminators. I mean, Thunderhammers are good in Terminators, but remember just what we talked about earlier. Lightning Claws now will wound Toughness 8 on 55%. I'm actually curious what Lightning Claws would wound Toughness 7 on, because I bet it would be pretty... I guess it's going to be 75%, actually. Like, if you have 10 Lightning Claws and you're going to wound. If you're gonna charge toughness 7, then you're going to wound on 4s, right? So you're going to hit 5, you're going to miss 5, and you're going to reroll those 5 on a half. So yeah, I mean, 10 Thunderhammers against toughness 7 are going to wound on. I guess it's 83. But yeah, so Lightning Claws are barely behind, and obviously you get a boatload of more attacks, and probably with the more attacks you get from Lightning Claws means against like toughness 7 you're going to do more, and then I guess you don't have that issue to deal with like we talk about, like Dreadnoughts -1 damage, Death Guard -1 damage. What other factions are going to have -1 damage rules? I guess it's a serious question as we move into 9th edition. If you have an Astra Militarum or Tau similar meta with weak characters, the Vindicator is okay, but otherwise underwhelming. Coluxus helps a lot more with what we are weaker with. Yeah, I mean, I think that's generally... I've played against Vindicators and they can be brutal. Yeah, I mean, I think... I need to play a couple with them. I think the dice goal rolls could go either way, right? They could be really useful or they could be lackluster. Fury of the Firstborn, +1 to hit. So still 3+ Thunderhammer attacks. Either way, the Storm Shield for me offers more than the Lightning Claws, but you are correct. Yeah, I mean, the Storm Shield does help to a certain extent, I guess. So okay, let's score this list, and I guess this list is, like I said, is a very similar strategy to what I'm doing, just slightly different units. So okay, OBSEC, I guess we're going like 8.5. We don't have any Phobos units in this list. I guess we do have the Rites of War and the Visage of Death, so maybe that pushes it up to like a 9. But I mean, I do generally think that the Phobos are generally better. For shooting wise, I mean, we've got a bunch of auto bolt rifles and we have a bunch of Sanguinary Guard bolters, but you know, like, I guess we're going to have to kill any chaff or low units that the enemy have with units like Sanguinary Guard, which is not going to be ideal. It's going to be a bit of a waste of them, and they aren't designed to do that. You know, Death Company with chainswords or Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws would do better. So that's why I don't run 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard. I probably have enough units to do 3 squads, but personally I like to switch it up because you are going to end up fighting against different things. So maybe swapping out one of these squads for Sanguinary Guard or for something else would be better. Vehicles and monsters. I mean, this list is designed to really punch high power or high toughness enemies. You know, we've got all these Melta rifles on the Eradicators. We've got those Thunderhammers on the Terminators. We've got an absolute ton of Incarmite swords. I guess like at the end of the game we would have like 20. We're going to have 21 Incarmite swords and you get 5 attacks. So potentially you have 100 Incarmite sword attacks per turn if everything made their charges. So anti-vehicle monster is probably like pushing up a 9.5. But I mean, you will lose some of those points because you're a bit weaker against the hordes. Mobility is decent. The troops aren't mobile. I guess the Terminators and Eradicators aren't mobile. Eradicators don't need to be so mobile because of the assault rifles that they have. But I guess like mobility is 8.5, and then specialized. I do tend to think that this is a bit specialized because I see lists that win tournaments, and the lists that are winning tournaments don't typically have 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard. They maybe have 2 in a Death Company, or they maybe have like a Death Company, Vanguard Vets, and Sanguinary Guard. They don't seem to narrow focus just down on one. So I think because of that, we're going to say the list is a little bit more specialised than it needs to be, maybe like 43.5. Running any assassin can be very good because it opens up options to swap it out for a different one based on who you play. Flexibility at a tournament is always so good. Yeah, that is very true. It's 6s to hit him. I would like to try him against Morty to tie him up. It's definitely an interesting option. Yeah, do you know what? That's one of the reasons, Ollie, that incursors are so useful. Because incursors rifles do not get modified by the 6s to hit the assassin. So if someone has a Colexus assassin shoot him with your incursors and you'll still hit him on your 3s. So that's an important. That's one of the important roles, I guess, incursors can bring to the battle. Okay, and then so yeah, I mean it's a decent list, but I think it just needs a little bit more flexibility put into it, and maybe some Phobos units. And see, the thing that I don't get, right? Like week on week, we keep looking at people that have captains with jump packs, right? And like these captains tend to start on the board. At least with me in this list, this captain is starting on the board. So at this point, like, you're paying more points for the captain with the jump pack, and he is more likely to die than the one on the bike. And the one on the bike can get that 20-inch guaranteed move with his 6-inch advance in turn 1. So I just really prefer the captain on the bike. Toughness 4 characters die for me all the time. And since I've started running those Toughness 5 and Toughness 6 characters, they die like infinitely less. I mean, they still die, but like the enemy has to put so much into them to kill them. It can really, it can really hang them up an extra turn or sometimes even 2 turns trying to kill those characters. So I get that the jump captains are bread and butter for Blood Angels, but definitely consider those bike captains. I think Mortarion is a bit too large and predictable to worry that much about his movement. Yeah, I mean, Mortarion is just a strange... I actually don't think he's going to see that much competitive play, Mortarion. But I guess, as I say, I haven't played any game since he's been changed, so it's hard to say if he is going to see too much competitive play. Okay, and yeah, I mean, if you are new here, I see a bunch of people actually watching on Twitch today, so if you are new and you want to see more Blood Angels stuff, then that's all we do on this channel, and we do multiple Blood Angels videos every week. So yeah, please consider following or liking or subscribing. Alright, most combat. So this is list number 5 today, and this will be our final list, and this is submitted by Rezio, and mostly combat, but there's some shooting support and backfield presence. Appropriate units can use speed and force to either attack or defend throughout the board. The Whirlwind does its trick, or target something small if I don't need the stratagem. Apply the Stormbolter to it because I had extra points and because it's been tagged by units in the past, and past that even an extra wound or 2 help in removing. My captain's upgrades are subject to change, but I think the combo is good overall. The model is completely magnetised for that. I have a Bolt Inceptors, and they will be controversial, but they have done excellent work for me so far. I don't actually own any of the plasma version anyway, but I expect they will get another nerf sooner or later, and the bolt versions will be even better. Appreciate you checking this out. Alright, Rezio, let's check it out. I also have a strong Death Guard army, and yeah, Mortarion is not on my main list so far. Yes, so... And hey, good to see you, Rezio. I like it when people tune in for us to talk about their army lists. Alright, so we start off with one additional relic. Oh, shit. Move that. So HQ, Captain on the bike. Do you know what? After all my bitching about Captain, here we go. Someone brings the Captain on the bike. Great. Alright. Speed of the Primarch, Artisan of War, Adamantium Mantle, Chapter Master, Storm Shield, Angel's Exemplar, Thunderhammer, Visage of War, and he's the Warlord. Do you know what? Unless you're putting Gift of Foresight someone else, I would take Gift of Foresight over Speed of the Primarch, unless you have a real reason for wanting that fight first on that Captain. I mean, the very next thing I see a Librarian with a Veil of Time, I think Gift of Foresight on this Captain would be better. I think it makes him super survivable. Alright, so we've got Librarian, Veil of Time, Nullzone, Psychic Fortress. He is fast becoming a staple of a lot of army lists as well. Chief Librarian and the Jump Pack. And then the Priest. There's no point me even speaking about the Priest. It's the same as I think every list today has had this Priest, maybe bar Tony's. He is a Chief Apothecary, he is Icon of the Angel, and the Selfless Healer, obviously. Don't forget, a Jump Chapter Master with Adamantium Storm Shield is Toughness 5, 1+ save, 4+, 5++. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty good, but, put him on a bike, it's 10 points cheaper, he has 1 more wound, and he has 1 more toughness. You come up against, what are those flamers that the Death Guard get? They're not called flamers. Plagued crawlers things. I forget the exact names of them. plague spitters, plague crawlers, plague bursters, plagued crawlers, plague burst crawlers. You know, if they have these I think it's these heavy sluggers, or no, it's these plague spitters, right? Each time an attack is made with this weapon, the attack automatically hits. You know, like, so against the character on the bike, these do basically nothing, because he's toughness 6, right? And I know that toughness, there's a strange place between like toughness 5 and 7, right, where you might not see so much value against certain weapons, but against some things you will actually see loads of value. And these plague spitters, I believe there's Death Guard Marines that can basically carry these guns and they're 2d6 assault, right? And like it's just huge, like how much more survivable he is against those. And like I said, there's some guns, or there's some situations where they're not that much better, but against these, like the character on the bike is just he's just so strong. I believe I chose Speed of the Primarch and anticipation he may end up isolated, not married to it, so to speak. I think you'd get more value out of Gift of Foresight, because with Gift of Foresight you get to reroll one of your Thunderhammer hits. If you do get a miss, you'll be able to reroll that. And the reroll of the armor save is generally pretty great when you have a 4+ invulnerable save and you have the Storm Shield. You know, so yeah, I think it's generally a free reroll every turn on your save. If this guy's alive till the end of the game, he'll do so much work for you, and that's kind of how I like to run him. Alright, so Incursors and Infiltrators for the troop choices, and we've put the mines in. Don't often see the mines, but, you know, why not? It gives them a bit more survivability if they are going to get charged, so that's decent. And then Death Company, 3 hammers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chainsword and bolt pistol. You know, 3 hammers seem to be what I recommend for Death Company as well, so I mean this makes sense too. How do you guys compare chaplains, chapter champions, and let me read that again. How do you guys compare captains, chapter champions, and the chaplain for the 3 HQ slots, priest and librarian for the rerolls? Yeah, I mean, like our HQs are it's very difficult, Ollie, right now to pick HQs. That's why in the video I did this week I actually said, why don't people consider a patrol detachment and a vanguard detachment? I mean, it only costs you 3 CP and it lets you take 4 HQs. And I think that right now there are so many good HQs for Blood Angels. It's very hard to pick. So the list that I'm going to be running as soon as the lockdown ends is actually a list like that, where I have 4 HQ. And I'm taking Chapter Master, Librarian, Saguaro Priest, and then +1, you know. I kind of agree. Speed of the Primarch for not letting you fight before people who charge really pisses me off about that power. Yeah, I mean, it seems Speed of the Primarch just seems like a low value pick. I mean, it's situational at best. We then have the Saguaro Ancient, who has the Wrath of Baal, and I guess your one additional relic. What was your additional relic? The Icon of the Angel here. Okay. Actually, I think you've got 2 relics here then, because you've got Visage of Death, you've got Icon of the Angel, and you've got Wrath of Baal. So I think you've messed up, and you should have one more relic selected up here. We've given the Saguaro Ancient Rights of War with the Hero of the Chapter so that we get that obsec for everybody around him. We then have a Saguaro Guard, and it's a 9-man mix of swords and axes. I generally like that. I think swords and axes are both great. Sometimes if there's points free, I take a Power Fist or Infernal Pistol, but I think Saguaro Guard in any situation or any combination of units is generally very fine. Problem with 2 patrols, it limits elites. Yeah, but I mean, if you take 1 patrol and 1 vanguard, then you don't have that problem with elites, right? You can actually take 8 elites if you take 1 patrol and 1 vanguard. And 1 patrol and 1 vanguard costs you the same amount of CP, or does it cost you 1 more CP? Yeah, I think it costs you 1 more CP than taking 2 patrols, right? But I mean, you can do 2 patrols and just take 4 elites if you can make your army work with 4 elites. I mean, we do have other things now, you know, like obviously a lot of people are running Inceptors, multi-mountain-bikes. So I think you could probably make 4 elites work if you're going to have 4 big elite ideas. And then Vanguard Veterans, we have the Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. We have the and then a couple of Thunderhammers into that group as well. And I think that's fine. It makes sense to have them in there. Fast attack, we have... How many guys is this? This is 6 Inceptors with the bolt rifles. I actually need to look at Inceptors with bolt rifles because I've not run them since the very beginning of 9th edition, 8th edition rather. Let's find them. Inceptors with bolt rifles, and you said they did work for you. Here we go. So it's just assault 3, strength 5, AP -1, 1 damage. Okay, so I guess you're running 6 of them though, so it would just be 36 shots. Yeah, I mean 36 strength 5 shots. That seems like it would definitely clear out a bunch of crap. Any sort of chaff, any sort of low wound units, you just clear them straight off. And then the Whirlwind with the Stormbolter, like you mentioned, just randomly have that Stormbolter on there just in case. Yeah, so I'd say this is a pretty competitive list, and it's pretty interesting. You know, we've got 3 Phobos units, we've got the Death Company, the Saguaro Guard, and the Vanguard Veterans, which I get a lot of value in running all 3 of them. We have the Ancient in there as well to give them the bonus movement. We're also going to be obsecking them. We have a ton of Inceptors to, you know, drop in, pay the 1 CP for Descent of the Angels, and then absolutely clear out screens with 36 strength 5 shots. We have a Whirlwind, we have our nice strong captain on a bike, we have our Librarian. It seems like a pretty well thought out and also pretty strong list. Maybe just there was one slight error with the number of relics that you have in here. I played one guy who admitted tailoring his list by accidentally one time said, bought a bunch of units with Smite because of your Terminators. Yeah, I generally don't recommend you tailor your list. I just think you should try and create something that you think has synergies and strengths, because you obviously never know exactly what you're going to play against. And if you tailor your list against one army, then you'll just, you know, you'll run into problems again when you're up against other lists. So if your Warlord is in the Vanguard, it's the same CP as 2 patrols, right? Your Warlord, you don't get your CP refunded. Arcs, hope I'm saying this right. Arc Surit, you don't get your CP refunded for a Vanguard detachment. So you'd only get your CP defunded if your Warlord was in your patrol detachment. So you could put your Warlord in the patrol detachment and then pay 3 CP for the Vanguard. Because if you put your Warlord in the Vanguard, then you do not get any CP refunded by the Vanguard. That's the negative of taking the Vanguard. You don't need the troops, but you don't get any of your CP refunded. Okay, so this is a cool list, and let's think a little bit about scoring. So we do have the double way to add and remove OBSEC. So like I guess your OBSEC is probably a 9.5. I need to do some checking because I haven't you know, it's really annoying that I haven't been able to play. Like, I usually play a game a week, so and then sometimes more if like my wife is ever away. So I'm probably missing about 10 games of Blood Angels. So some of these strategies I haven't had as much time to try out as I'd have liked. I really like the Bolter Inceptors. I do think if GW balances the Plasmons properly, the Bolter version will remain a solid option. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Bolter ones are generally a bit more reliable as well, right? Because you don't have to worry about the ones and the points cost for them difference. It's like you get a whole extra guy for free. And you know, if you compare like strength 7 against strength toughness 4, it's exactly the same. You know, I guess the only difference is the AP. So yeah, I mean, I think your Bolter Inceptor idea is okay. And I guess, like, if we talk next about clearing screens, then I guess those Inceptors can do that very well. You obviously have the Whirlwind in there for the fight last and stuff, and you have the Librarian in there. Everybody's using that Librarian and the Priest now. So really, anti-infantry, I think we're going to go with the 9. We're also going to talk about how we deal with those bigger threats. And I guess against the bigger threats, we have some Thunderhammers here, the Saguaro Guard, a bunch of Thunderhammers with the Death Company. We have the Captain on the bike, where we just talked about. I think we make him stronger with the Gift of Foresight. Do you know what? Imperium Sword would even make him stronger than Speed of the Primarch as well. You know, like that additional attack and the additional strength, making his Thunderhammer strength 9 would basically mean that you would wound even toughness 8 on 2s. I think Gift of Foresight is more valuable though, because it keeps them alive as well. So I guess like anti-vehicle monster, I guess it's probably up around a 9 as well. And mobility, everything's mobile, I guess, except our Whirlwind, which I guess doesn't really need to be mobile. It just hides, maybe it camps an objective. Everything else is mobile. You obviously have all Phobos troops, so you can guerrilla tactics them, so they're very mobile as well. So I think your mobility is right up there at like a 9.5. And then specialization, I would have liked to see a little bit of heavy firepower in terms of, like, I guess that's why a lot of people maybe run 3 Eradicators, just to have those little bits of heavy firepower. I guess you're putting a lot of your hope into the Rights of War and the Rights of War and the Wrath of Baal, and I understand that, and some people manage to get a lot of value out of that. Wrath of Baal isn't my favourite. I would spend these 125 points and take a squad of Eradicators. Maybe it's like 135 points now for them, but I generally think that the 2 inches of movement is... I personally think, like, my personal thought in it is it's overrated. Like, I feel like in turn 1 we usually move 12 and then we advance, and with our +1 to advance and our d6 we can usually advance into cover. I guess this can make your turn 2 charge a little bit easier. So I mean, I guess that's why you've got it, but I'd rather have 3 Eradicators, which I know can, you know, like pop a tank, or, you know, they could do a decent amount of damage to a Dreadnought or something, weaken something up before I do get in on it and charge. But I mean, I think that's fine. So I think overall, like, I think it's like your specialization is probably like an 8.5 or a 9. So I think that's probably going to be coming in as close to the strongest list for today. And I think it's just well rounded. But I mean, I think if it was me personally, I would be changing something like that. So it's hard for me to really make any suggestion here. On what to change. Maybe I would drop one of these Haywire Mines and take the Gauntlet on the Infiltrators, just so I know that 100% my backfield is safe. And maybe maybe I drop one of these Rights of War or the Vigilance of Death. Maybe I drop one of those, and maybe I'd take like the Tomb of Malkador, so we could have like an Unleash Rage on this Librarian and basically give those Death Company or the Saguaro Guard exploding 6s. And I think that would make it a little bit stronger, but you know, I guess, and you look like you've got 5 points free as well, so maybe 5 points free, we could put one Infernal Pistol into the Death Company, or another option would be to drop the Storm Shield on the Sergeant, right, for the Vanguard Veteran, and give him, like, because the whole rest of the squad have Storm Shields, so like you can save on the Storm Shield down until you have just him left, and just swap out his Storm Shield for an Infernal Pistol. Might give you just a little bit more punch in there as well. So you could do something like that. And I guess another option would be maybe you could give Quake Bolts to somebody. If you felt like, I think you would probably give Quake Bolts to your Inceptor Sergeant as well, right? Because it's just a bolt weapon, and that would give you the advantage to get those +1 to hit on some of those charges as well. So a few small tweaks here about Reziel, but I mean, I guess I feel like that is a very it's a very solid list. But I mean, I think if you look at solid Blood Angels lists right now, they all look something much and such like this, and I think Tony broke the meta today. So I guess like Rezio, you probably get the strongest list today for just like what is going to be the most competitive. That is a horrible gold color. But I think Tony gets to be in a cool green color for breaking the meta. So maybe not that horrible green either. So I think those are our two standouts today, maybe. Okay, and then let's catch up and chat, and then let's finish up for the day. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate everybody hanging out, and I see quite a few new faces, I think, today. So if you are new here, then please consider subscribing. We do Blood Angel stuff every week, and if you do want to have your list over for review, what you do to get your list reviewed is you head on over to the Blood Angels Commander YouTube page, you click on this community tab, and in the latest community tab, or the latest community post, you just hit here for the comment, and you can just put your list in here right now. And before you guys leave today, if you haven't watched the latest video in here, this is by Evan over in Origin Painting. He has a great little channel. He is trying to get up to 500 subs. He said that when he gets to 500 subs, he's going to do a $60 giveaway, and he's going to include 10 hours of painting on that giveaway. So I would love it if you guys would give Evan a little bit of love on his channel. And this video he actually painted a Blood Angel for me, I guess. I didn't know he was doing it, but he painted this guy who is a conversion champion, and I think he is a very good badass. So if you can get 10 hours of free painting from Evan in a $60 box of whatever, maybe he said 60 euros, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he is basically gonna buy something and paint it for you. So and you know what, because he only has 500 subscribers, it might be pretty easy to win that giveaway. So I'd love it if you guys showed some support to him. And you're very welcome, Rezio. I hope the review was helpful. The Haywire Mines are definitely nice, but I do think that an Infiltrator with the Gauntlet, an Infiltrator squad with the Gauntlet is crazy good at just holding objectives. Like, you do not have to worry about them at all. They are, they give you like peace of mind, I guess. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you hitting your sub over there. He does good Blood Angels videos every week. I like Evan a lot, actually. Oh, and welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for becoming a member. That is super appreciated, Tom. If you haven't submitted an army list yet and you want to submit one, you can do that, obviously, and there are some member only posts over on that community tab as well. And if you do ever need me to I like to take suggestions from members for future videos. I think one of the ones we took last week was actually from Jonathan, who we did his list at the beginning of the stream, and we looked at comparing the Lightning Claw Vanguard vets against the Death Company, and it was actually a really interesting video because it turns out those Lightning Claw Vanguard vets are actually crazy survivable compared to the Death Company. So I have ordered a few more Vanguard veterans to basically buff out mine. John Lennon and Stephen Box both rave about the Lath of Baal. Yeah, so Stephen Box has the YouTube channel Vanguard Veterans. No, not Vanguard Veterans, sorry. Vanguard Tactics. And Stephen apparently, I don't know if this is, I think based on ITC rankings, I'm not sure which other ranking it would be. I believe he is the #1 Blood Angels player in the world. And he runs 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard with the Wrath of Baal. He runs Dante, and he runs a Death Company. And what he does is he does a Forlorn Fury. He leaves one Death Company model back to give him the Chapter Master rerolls from Dante, and then he uses the Saguaro Priest to put them in Assault Doctrine, and he gets that turn 1 10-man Death Company charge with Chapter Master rerolls, and they're in Assault Doctrine, and then and I mean, I guess he's using the Wrath of Baal there to get even more movement out of it. So I can understand why some people love the Wrath of Baal. It's just, I don't think there's just one right way to play Blood Angels. I think I play them a little bit more defensively than some of the other players that run Blood Angels, but I've played them defensively now since about 2nd edition, and I have a very, very high win rate of games. And yeah, I mean, now that the pandemic's all over and now that my painting is in a really good place, would a review of relics and warlord traits be a good video? Yeah, it might be. It might actually be a good video. I'll take a note of that. Wrath of Baal is subtle in that it creates tactical opportunities instead of making things kill stuff better. I mean, yeah, it definitely does create some tactical usefulness and options. So, yeah, I don't dislike Wrath of Baal. I think, as I say, I think there's two different ways to play Blood Angels. And do you know what? Maybe once we're playing again, we're playing on a weekly basis. If you guys want me to run some lists with Wrath of Baal in it, I will definitely consider that. But I am working towards a competitive list that is a balanced list, because I personally think Blood Angels work best when we have a balance. And I think the way that I like to balance my force is a dreadnought or two. I think like maybe a dreadnought or some of those attack bike multi-meltas, and I think the list that I'm making next has a dreadnought and has some multi-meltas in it and has a whirlwind in it for the fight last rule. Yeah, I mean the ancient is expensive, but he does have value. I liked it when he was 85 points last edition, but I mean, I guess he's gone up quite a bit this edition. I actually used to run 2 Sanguary Ancients when they're 85 points a model. So, yeah, I guess times do change. Alright, so thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. It's been a really fun stream. It was 5 pretty cool army lists. And yeah, I mean, we will be back next week, I'm sure, again with more army lists, as always. And if you enjoyed the video today, please hit the like button. I recently found your channel, love the content, keep up the great work. Thank you very much, Jay Wellington. Welcome to the stream, and I will see all you guys very, very soon. We might have a battle report going up this week. I started working on it last night, and then we will obviously have our tactics video going up on Friday as normal. And we also, I think we will announce very soon, I believe a week Monday, we'll know how much longer our lockdown is going to be on in Scotland. So very, very soon we'll be back to live games every week on the channel as well. So really looking forward to that. So hopefully you guys are too. And yeah, have a great afternoon, everybody. Sorry about the little distraction earlier where we had our little mini Blood Angel join for just a minute. And we will see you. Yeah, we'll see you all soon. Until next time, brothers, by the blood are we made. Peace.